We're live.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. We are now live streaming on YouTube. So it's my pleasure to welcome you to this meeting of the Landlord Services Advisory Board. My name is Paul Rivers, and I will chair this meeting. And I'm ably assisted by my assistant on my right hand, Terry Downey, who is the leader of the Waverley's tenant panel. Now, as it's always a good thing at this meeting, we will go around the room and introduce ourselves for the benefit of the viewer. Go on, go for it, Kim.
I'm Kimberly So, Regulatory Review Advisor, Democratic Services and clerk in the meeting.
I'm Hugh Wagstar, the Head of Housing.
Morning, I'm Councillor John Robini from Shottermill. I'm the County Borough and Town Councillor for that area.
Good morning, my name is Councillor Andrew Lawton for Farnham Town in Webburn and for Waverley.
Good morning, I'm Janet Crow. I'm I'm not Farnham, am I?
No.
Waverley Borough Council and the Government Town Council for Farnham and Catshall and co-portfolio holder for housing delivery.
Morning, Matt Alexander, House Operations Manager.
Dennis Bramble, Shepherd's Court, a visitor.
I'm Sally Purcell from Shepherd's Court, Sharon Thompson, Service Improvement Manager.
I'm Rod Blackmore, Tenants Panel Member and Chair of the Customer Experience Group.
Good morning, my name is Alan Morrison. I'm the Waverley Borough Councillor for Cranley West.
Good morning, my name's David Williams. I'm a council tenant.
Good morning, I'm Annalisa Howson. I'm the Assistant Director for Housing.
Morning, David Madams, Tenants Panel.
Terry Downey, Vice Chair.
Yeah. So moving on to our agenda, number one, apologies for absence. Have we any, Kim?
Yes, well, apologies received from Robert Stratford and Councillor Jackie Key.
Thank you. Item two, notes of the previous meeting. Anybody want to raise any issues on the notes?
Oh, yes, online.
Checking online. Who's on that?
We've got Victoria Key online.
Oh. Hi, Victoria.
Hello there, everyone. I'm Victoria Keel, Councillor for Godalming Central and Oxford. Nice to see you all.
I didn't mean to miss you out. I just didn't see you. But that's
No problem. I'm lurking.
Oh, there you are. Yeah, right. So any issues on the notes of the last meeting? Excellent. And item three, declarations of interest. Do we have any, Kim?
None received.
Any? Oh, Sharon.
Sorry, Chair. Would you like me to give a couple of updates from the minutes of the last meeting?
Oh, yes, please.
Of course. From the previous meeting, section 105, so page 3, it says section 105 for me to provide an update. 105 was referring to the Senior Living Scheme consultation, and we were discussing at the April meeting upon presentation of the consultation around whether the dates in the action plan, whether they needed to be reviewed to ensure that we were able to meet those targets. I'm happy to feedback that no target dates were amended and we are progressing against the action plan as planned. And I'd be happy to bring an update against the action plan in 6 months, so from April, so in September, if that's what you would like.
Thank you very much.
And
yeah,
also
good.
Just to mention that the letter on the outcome of the consultation was sent out to tenants on the 20th of May.
Perfect.
And I have one more.
Very pleased that you're back helping us through it. Sorry, go on, Sharon.
So I have one more. So it's the third bullet point down in that list. So section 107 was where I presented the Q4 complaints update. And there was a discussion around the home relocation policy. We had reviewed a complaint and we had presented some lessons learned. And just to clarify what we have changed, so the policy has not changed, it's the procedure that has been amended to ensure that we are clearly outlining roles and responsibilities, and also that tenants will be accompanied by an officer on these viewings. So from the review of that complaint, those are the two key learning points. but there were no changes to the policy.
Okay, got it.
That's
Fantastic.
all from me.
You?
Just the fourth bullet point of number 2, it's just a typo. That's the last sentence should read either upheld or not upheld.
That had already been amended
Okay, thank you.
following your emails.
Thank you.
Okay, so no declarations prior to the meeting. Any declarations here? No. Item 4, questions from members of the public. Have we had any?
No received.
And any special questions from members of this group? No.
No.
So, right. Okay, well, we now are rush straight in to item 6, head of service report. You?
Thank you very much, Chair. World of social housing continues to change at a great pace. And the first item that I highlight to the board is the 2025 spending review and how it impacts on social housing. Basically, the government has got a new 10-year rent settlement allowing annual increases by inflation, by CPI, plus 1%. And they're also looking to consult on a reintroduction of rent convergence, which again will allow rents to probably increase in the sector. So this boost to the housing revenue account will enable greater investment in our existing homes and new build. And it's got to be remembered that there's a huge amount of new regulatory requirements required on us as landlords. And also we've got the look to meet EPCC standards with energy efficiency by 2030. So going forward, it's going to require careful strategic planning and prioritisation in consultation with the board to balance the building of new homes and is ensuring that our current homes are safe and our quality. So I think Candice was going to come, and such she hasn't been able to make it. But I think this is something you're going to be discussing for a number of years to come about the rent increase, how it's impacting on tenants, but how the money is required to deliver what the government are saying we need to deliver. And I'm going to get questions about this issue about the spending review.
Right. So this is saying that the way in which rents can be raised in terms of the government edict is that it's fixed for 10 years as far as as far as up until
that formula is to allow, and that allows us to business plan and have certainty to do investment, get loans, whatever's required. And it gives the accounts that certainty, which I think is quite probably rare in the government, and they've got that 10-year certainty.
I just said, the housing sector has been lobbying to get that certainty on rent increases, because just going from one year to the next and not knowing is really challenging. So we're delighted to get that 10-year, and we hope that that is honoured next 10 years.
And thank you to all rent payers for paying the rent. It does help. Any specific questions on that?
Not a specific question as such, but does this help us get more social housing, what we would have called council estates in the old days, as opposed to affordable, which everybody keeps quoting? So will this help us as an organisation?
At least might not more. I mean, it is called they're looking to actually give additional funding for affordable homes programme. I think they've still not clarified whether this is how much of this is going to be social rent, i.e. the old kind of rent formula, rather than just affordable homes or shared ownership. So that's my understanding. They haven't clarified how much social rent is they're expecting.
Okay, shame.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean that there won't be.
No. It's just a shame they haven't come forward.
Yeah. And I think, as we've seen with different developments, looking at the viability and the future of the developments, whether the council want to support that development to deliver social housing rather than affordable housing or shared ownership. And I think those will be kind of looked at as a case by case basis as well. There will be an opportunity. You know, it's how we spend our money most wisely. But what we are aware of that some affordable rents are not affordable to the people who are on our housing register. So we need to make sure that what other social landlords are providing and what we're providing does actually meet the needs of the community, and that they will be able to sustain their tenancy long term.
Great. Sorry, you carry on, please.
So I'll move on to AWOP's law. Most of the discussion around that has been around damp and mould. And the recent housing ombudsman report really highlights that it's also about emergency repairs, and highlighting the government has now introduced a statutory requirement for social landlords to address emergency repairs within a strict 24-hour framework. And what the ombudsman highlights is that this is not merely a procedural change, but a cultural change in how we prioritise and respond to urgent housing issues. So the ombudsman again sort of goes through the report and highlights the issues or the challenges that social housing providers are having around emergency repairs already, and how improvements need to be made for this new regulation that comes in October. It also, we need to highlight, it's not just about applying quick fixes, it's about undertaking the work when completing a permanent resolution to the repair, and do that in a timely manner. But we feel that we do that, but what we haven't got is the data to prove that. So this is not only a cultural change, a procedural change, but it's actually a monitoring change to actually, reassure you that we are doing what is required by law in terms of doing emergency repairs. It also talks about, in the Ombudsman report, which I think is important, is about gaining access, and that how we need not one fit approach in terms of gaining access to people's homes. Understanding it can be a complex issue in terms of gaining access. So, taken in light of the Ombudsman report and that the law is coming in very soon, I think Waverley's Housing Services with the customer services team need to undertake a comprehensive review of the emergency repairs policy, training frontline staff on effective triaging and a responsible way of communication, and investing in a system that supports real-time tracking and accountability. So therefore, I'm proposing that an action along these lines is added to the housing improvement plan. At the end, we can get that agreed. Then I've just moved on into my report. I just confirmed that probably the highest risk that we have at the moment is recruitment and vacancy. I've talked about that a number of times at these meetings. We've now employed a project manager who will do some real proactive in terms of recruitment. She's been doing some part-time work with us, and she goes full-time next week, but that will help us move forward on the recruitment to these 19 vacancies. And the last item was to really highlight and say goodbye and give thanks to Matt, who is leaving us after 10 years of service. And just would like to extend my thanks to him for all the work and commitment he's done, and especially over the last year in trying to help push Ian Williams to perform a lot better. So sad that he will be going in July.
Extremely sad, Matt. We will miss you. Not just because you'll be stopping the draft or anything like that. And, I would echo, I'm sure all of us would echo Hugh's words. You've been great, and you'll be a great asset to your future employer. And we miss you, and come back when you can.
And Matt, if I could, on behalf of the tenants panel and all tenants, thank you for the work that you've done. Particularly over the last year or so, in trying to push our contractors into providing a better service, and we're starting to see that. So thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
Matt, you're going to miss me moaning it.
A good number.
That's the end of my report.
Okay, one comment from me, in general is, you mentioned the repairs policy. We looked at the repairs policy at the last LSAB meeting, and it's coming up to the executive on Tuesday with a number of changes that that this board has incorporated. So I thank you for that from last time, and we look for the executive to agree. That's what they do best. Right, okay.
Should we just have it minuted that we add an additional action to the housing improvement plan in terms of emergency repairs?
Right, are we all agreed on that?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to agenda item number 7, tenant satisfaction measures, 34 to 25 assurance report. And
Could be me.
is it you?
Me.
Thank you.
Elaine has completed the report, hasn't got her job title. She's our data officer in the asset management team. And this report is around giving the board assurance on the data provided in terms of the tenant satisfaction measures are accurate. This is not to discuss the performance, and we've got that next month when we could, in terms of discussing the actual outcome of the PSMs. This is really seeking assurance, or giving you as a board reassurance and assurance of the data. So there's 2 types of PSM, tenant satisfaction measures. The first ones are the technical requirements, and the others are the tenants' perception survey requirements. We just need to deal with them separately. The technical ones are mostly around compliance and repairs service and the decent home standard. The others is a number of questions, how tenants perceive the service and their satisfaction levels. There's 2 different ways how we collect the data, of course. So the first one, in terms of the management information, I think the most important paragraph in Elaine's report is paragraph 2, which starts at the bottom of page 11 or page 1 of the report, and she sort of lists what she's done to actually ensure that the data that we're providing on performance of the different areas that she's done to ensure they are accurate. But first, she engaged with the data owners, because that's one of the issues about consistency. These different areas are managed by different surveyors, different managers. That's the first thing that she's had to overcome, with that consistency, because there is not just one data owner. She's met with them, etc. Then there's a compliance review. So she checked all the figures against the regulator's TSM technical requirements, because again, there's a calculation, and the regulator has set out how we expect to calculate these TSMs. Then she's cross-referenced historical data. What did we submit in 23-24? What have we been submitting to the Landlord Service Advisory Board? And then she looked at a logic and consistency. Do the figures make logical sense? Is it right? Is it correct? And then she did a systems validation, ensuring all manually produced data matched the asset management system, and ensure this did not, and if there's any reasons they did not reconcile, is to understand why. And then on the decent home standard figure, we actually got an external validation, someone to come in and to analyse the way that we check the way that we calculated decent home standards is correct, but it's actually quite a complex calculation, and he confirmed that he gave a validation to the calculation. So on top of that, which is not noted, is then Sharon has reviewed all the data as well and has identified just a typo, and that's on around complaints. That's on page 4 of 6, on page 14 of the pack. And that's in terms of complaint at stage 2. We've got 14.9 and that is 14.6. So we've had that extra validation that Sharon has also done the last review of this paper. So we're still talking about the management TSMs. From that, we look on section 3, where the table starts. You have on the table a portion of home, the sort of what TSM, portion of the first one, portion of homes which require gas checks being carried out. So we've got the number of dwellings that were checked were completed, the number of dwellings we needed to be checked, and what our compliance rate is. And so for gas, it's for 99.8%. And you would have already received this figure in terms of the end of year figures you've already received. And that's one of the things that Elaine and Sharon have double checked that these are figures you've already received as well. So we've checked. So there's all that validation.
Yeah.
So Sharon, in terms of when we publish these figures, it would just be the right-hand column in terms of the actual performance. We're not doing the number of dwellings, etc.
No, so the regulator's quite clear in terms of what we need to present for our tenants to be able to scrutinise us, and that needs to be very clear. So what the regulator requires is for us to detail what the TSM is. So it would be a portion of homes for which all gas safety checks have been carried out, and then it would be the percentage. And how we're going to present that on our website is to title each TSM, to provide last year's percentage, and then provide this year's percentage as well, so that tenants can see the journey that we've been on.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's on the technical TSMs, but we now move on to the perception survey. So I think most people are aware, and did come to our session. So we employed an external consultant, Purity Research and Practice Limited. Again, the regulator has quite strict guidelines on how to undertake the surveys. Purity have experience of undertaking the surveys and followed it and have confirmed they followed it in line with what's required by the regulator, and they had also their own quality check processes in place. In terms of the results, when we've looked at the results, there's logical link to last year. There's no huge concerns in terms of what the changes in the data that we provided or the outcomes of the data.
No sudden change.
There's no sudden change, so I think it's to highlight. So that's how in the report we give assurance on the TSMs in terms of tenant perception. And I say the key thing is it is an accredited independent organisation who follows the guidelines by the regulator. So that's again how in this report we give assurance about the data that we're going to be putting on the website, as Sharon has explained, in terms of the outcome of our TSMs.
So can I, so you've basically said there's no significant change in the perception measures based on the independent survey. Were there any significant changes on the technical issues when they were reviewed to what your previous statistical summary had confirmed?
The red one, and I looked at how the outcome is, probably not the one that we understand we made a mistake was on last year's in terms of the asbestos checks, because it's quite complex, but the regulator is only looking for communal area checks for asbestos. Yeah. What we published was what we said. We talked about every individual home having a check.
Right.
That was that. So it's not really the outcome. We found a mistake in last year's.
But that submission. It sounds like you were measuring slightly different things.
Yes, we were.
So in terms of the.
So that's the only thing I think.
Okay, so apart from that, the statistical information was fairly consistent with what you have previously had been
So,
summarising.
so yes, I'm just looking at them now. Generally speaking, in all areas, we have increased compliance, which is good. Obviously, there's the big one, which is the decent homes going from 15% that we presented last year down to 5%, and that's when Hugh said that we brought in the third party to provide you with assurance that that process has been.
That's measuring this year versus last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think it's so which no good point that Sharon made. I think is what we would look is why to understand if there was any great change from one year to the next.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'm seeking for the board to confirm their assurance with the accuracy of the data and the TSM outcome.
So recommendation before us is that the board is asked to note Hugh's report and confirm it has received adequate assurance on the reliability of the data. Are we all agreed on that?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 8, damp and mold quarterly update. Are you damp and mold?
I'm damp and mold as well. And again, Elaine has helped with this in terms of preparing the data, and also Loredana, the damp and mold officer, also contributed to this report, so apologies for that. And although we call it a quarterly update, in fact, it's a 2-year review of where we are with damp and mold, and some look at statistics. Generally, I think the report is saying that we're improving how we're managing damp and mold in terms of the turnaround of time, etc. And I think the other key thing is that I think we've become a lot better at responding to damp and mold. I think there's 4 things going forward that we need to be more proactive and actually start to use the data to use to actually invest in preventing mold. And as I think if you come to this meeting, we have done a procurement in terms of ventilation systems and other damp and mold preventions, which will enable us to introduce a strategy for being proactive. Some of the data is really interesting. The one that really stands out for me is that Farncombe and Godalming seem to have a lot less reports of damp and mold in terms of portions of stock. So they're around that 6-5%, where other areas, Farnham and the Hazelmere had higher. And then we start to drill down. Those high figures are from, a number of more modern estates. I'm thinking of the Chantries in particular, and the Meads in Hazelmere. So those are the things that the team have got to work on. And then, sorry.
Yeah, John was good.
While you were speaking about that, I was at a previous meeting this week with the scrutiny, and one of the things that leapt out of me was the partnership report. And what they were saying there was that in Dunsfold, for example, there were 51 disruptions regarding targeted criminality in the Dunsfold area, which one of the highest areas across Waverley. Now, when I look at our report here, you can see that Dunsfold is one of the highest damp and mould distributions on the bar. Now, I don't know because I've got absolutely no facts and figures on the other report because it was in the public arena and the police obviously couldn't talk about that. However, do you think there's any sort of link between the housing standard and criminality? Because we've got 2 very high figures.
A big question.
And I don't know. It is a big question. I don't expect an answer now. I just want to raise it because Dunsfold isn't a particularly big area. It's just a small village with different types of population. But I needed to raise it so that perhaps somebody could look at it.
And this is the kind of thing I think that we need to start looking at is these statistics. Why is Dunsfold so high? And actually, what are the learnings from Farncombe and Godalming, or is it just how they were built? And because, as we know, the borough is from 4 different housing authorities. It's coming to one. So did build the Godalming and Farn build their homes a lot better? And it's those kind of things we really need to understand. But as there's other kind of data that I think the key point we need to match is matching the data with other data, especially around our tenants, not necessarily about whether crime, but it could be around poverty, disability, etc. And as the committee is aware, we have got this other project around visiting tenants and getting that kind of information. So that is the kind of thing moving forward we would want to do, is match other data specific around tenants' needs and tenant situations with this kind of data. And that's exactly what we need to do.
Yes, you're working smarter. That's what we like to see, is that we get an outcome that will help everybody, not only with this, but also with the crime aspect as well, if that's, if it's relevant.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Obviously, when I look at the geographical distribution, I'm sort of quite horrified to see Farnham so bad. Your comment 3.2, I think you've got to be careful how you word it. Since you're showing a percentage, the percentage is a percentage of population. So saying that it should be attributed to larger population in absolute numbers is correct.
Yeah,
In percentages, it's
that's
still bad.
And that's the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, do you know specific? You said Chantries. Is that one development which has got some serious building quality issues, or is it more complicated than that?
I mean that's again. I think we need to dig deeper. But initial analysis is the Chantries does stand out,
right?
As a particularly difficult estate around damp and mold.
So that's a building quality issue. It's not a social environment issue.
I would imagine it's. I assume, and I don't think we've done enough research to answer you fully, but I'll make a good guess. The buildings contribute definitely. I mean, I think it needs more analysis to actually make a definitive answer back to you. But I think the buildings do contribute.
Okay. Can I discuss that a bit more with you offline?
Yeah,
thank you.
That'd be good. So the other interesting thing is on 5. Paragraph 5, there's a graph there. And this is on page 5 or 7 or 21 of the pack. And the because this report was sent to the regulator, I'll make that in a minute, but they were very intrigued about how the consistency, wasn't it, after sort of the winter's ending, there's still sort of a peak in February, March. And again, we need to sort of consider that as, and why there's that peak. Could we do work around preventing that peak of reports of damp and mold in the February time? And they were quite on that. So I've said quite a bit. I mean, there's an awful lot of information in this report. There's a lot of, but there's a lot probably in terms of data. It's like one of those things when you get a bit of data, you start to want more and to actually understand things. And I think this is what this report does, so it's the truth. But there's plenty of data here to actually send us on a journey to do further improvements. Just quickly, as I say, the regulator has reviewed this report, and that they really were complimentary on it. And they've been saying that they shared it with the wider team in terms of how it was presented and the kind and the outcomes and the kind of things that it was showing.
Okay, just one little point from me. In our repairs policy, it is tenants' responsibility to manage the condensation within their tenancies to minimise the impact of this. But it's a balance, isn't it, between what they can do, recognising that the cost of opening the windows in February or whatever and keeping the heating on, and what the structural imposition is of the houses that we let them have. So that's, I don't know if any of you wanted to comment on that balance.
So I think there is a balance to manage the homes that we live in, and we've got to make sure that they are fit for purpose. I think one thing we've moved away from, I haven't touched wood, heard it for a very long time, an officer saying it's lifestyle, walking away. That I feel, it's been proved me wrong, it has been wiped out. But I think it's recognising it's the tenants also may have to help manage the damp and mould in terms of how they use the home, And I think that's why that's in there. I think for me, it's a partnership. You do have a property that has, and that's why I think going back to the ombudsman report, it's about communication, because it isn't just saying lifestyle and walk away. It's about trying to explain, well, this is what I feel we can working together. You can do this, I can do this, and then we can resolve it for you. And you met Laura Dana, her enthusiasm, and she clearly would never say to a tenant, it's your lifestyle, but she would say, you need to do this to help improve stuff, and I will be doing this as well. So it's that balance.
Yeah. Kim?
Thank you. My previous job before I started at Waverley was as a housing officer for a social landlord. And the one thing I did notice as the housing officer was that with the new developments, that the landlords no longer provide drying areas outside drying areas, which means that a lot of tenants were having to dry their things in the flat, which obviously exacerbated the damp and mould. Is there a specific reason, because I never did get told, why social landlords or any landlord does not now provide outside drying areas?
I need to go back about new build.
Yeah.
All I can say is about current build, we've had quite a big programme of bringing back the drying areas. So we've done some social value funding from some of the contractors, and the development team have actually been renovating them and actually putting new dryers. They've still got to finish the programme. I was talking to somebody last week about that. I need to come back on about new developments and what we do and what we don't do. I don't know if you picked up about the programme about putting areas up.
Yeah, I think it's a key thing really. If we're saying don't dry your clothes inside and other radiation things like that, then where do you go? I think it's a great idea to have a drying area outside. On a personal point, I've had an issue with it and it's been resolved, I think now. But we've had an extractor fan, which is really good, but we do have to hold on to the back of the tail rail when it starts up and it's chemo, and it's quite noisy. You feel like you're in a plane all the time.
Like a jet.
In the bathroom, but
Very
it
good.
works. That's the main thing.
I have this vision of you being sucked up against it. Turn it off.
If you lose me, that's where it is.
Right. One other point is, I mean, to my mind again, is that there is a difference between the occurrence of mould and the reporting of the mould. And I think we're all aware that some tenants are not good at reporting it quickly because they think they're going to be in trouble. And I think we need to emphasize this partnership, that we will collectively work together on this. Don't leave it. So it becomes Sally?
Yes, on behalf of the, I'm just speaking on the tenant's perspective. I think where I live in senior living, because it's senior, a lot of the tenants have become more senior. And, I don't think they have the ability to be as stringent about certain rules. And as you know, some rules have changed drastically from the time they had their full ability. So, I just wondered if older tenants could be, maybe a health inspector could come around to make sure that they've got the cognitive to actually do it all. But I mean, and I think, it's both their ability and their mind actually is wearing out. Like
I think we are encouraged to know our tenants and to assess vulnerabilities and make appropriate contacts and adjustments on that. Yeah.
So I mean, sorry, that's exactly what we are doing. We're doing the tenants visits, getting the information, finding information about like you're saying, and then adapting our services to meet their needs.
I know, but I think some of the older people will not actually report it until it's more or less too late. So, and I think there should be a report back through the carers to the housing regarding, the mental state of some of the other tenants. Because, I was speaking to one of the ladies the other day and she was saying, oh, my carer just keeps running the tap. Years ago, you actually, when she's washing up, years ago, she doesn't know how to wash up. She needs to put it into a basin and wash it. And I thought, well, that's how old fashioned. But I mean, I didn't want to go into it.
Yeah.
But, I just think that they need to be re-educated in an older style and they just haven't.
Yeah, take your point. Sorry, councillor.
That's all right. You mentioned in the report about Hazelmere and the Meads. Now, the Meads is somewhere that I visit all the time. And you're actually saying further study is required to understand.
Mhm.
Is this likely to happen now? Are you looking at it before winter? Because obviously on the graph it shows that everything happens in winter.
Yeah.
So are we likely to see an early result from this? Or?
I don't know specifically about the needs, but I mean, this is the time during the summer for the damp and mold officer to do some work and then prioritise for the winter. I say at the moment we're just completing the procurement of the contract in terms of being able to do some planned work around the ventilation systems. I think she's at the moment currently working on a plan to actually where are we going to hit first. So I don't think I can promise anything in terms of a time today, but we can take that away and confirm how she can move forward on a number of areas.
If you couldn't, let me know.
Yeah.
Progress, I'll be pleased.
I mean, there are some short-term solutions by putting in a dehumidifier, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's worth investing in that if you're going to have a long-term solution, but
Yeah.
those things.
But I
can be
think
quick.
that's what we need to move from is that
Yeah.
responsive, not the and try and be a bit more planned as well. So with prevention, but 10 points.
Yeah.
Can you comment on where we are on obtaining specialist contractors in this area?
So yes, so Alice might have a more precise date.
Yeah,
It's very soon.
There is out to tender. So it's going to take another while to get the right.
We've been doing the evaluating,
spreadsheet.
we've been doing the evaluating this week.
But you didn't evaluate, so we're doing
Yeah,
the
so we're currently doing the
return and Matt's doing the evaluation.
So there's 3 or 4 of us doing around about 14 returns. So.
Okay. Any more questions on?
So that's for another independent contractor specialising in damp and mould. is that-
Yeah, more on the sort of ventilation side of it, the
Okay.
plan side of it, but can also do
Oh, that's good.
help out the wings. It's not taking away from any wings, but it can be
Right.
additional.
Is that because Ian Williams is saying I've got too many things to do?
No, it's just a bit more specialist, I think.
That's a good idea.
No, I think the thing is that what we have to avoid is somebody going in who is not skilled in this issue, whapping a load of paint over an area and walking away.
Yes,
And say that's
absolutely.
done. And the assessment, the accuracy of the assessment, and then a plan to remediate it.
We also get more expertise on the survey of the house rather than us just saying, please go and put a fan in or the oven or whatever.
Yeah.
You get someone that actually does the survey and they can come back to us and actually help us to understand it better.
Thanks, Matt. Any more questions on that? Our recommendation to the board is that we were asked to comment, and we have, thank you, and to note this report. All agreed that we've noted? Thank you. Thank you. Now, agenda item number 9, Landlord Services Performance Exceptions Report. Go ahead.
So the first part of the report is the scorecard, which is I explained, that we're not going to go into any detail on this. I would then just focus on the exceptions, i.e. whether there's good or bad performance I want to highlight. The first thing I just want to say is that we presented this table to the regulator at our meeting this week. Firstly, they were very complimentary about the presentation, and it's very clear, and it really met all their needs. They're a bit upset they couldn't ask us any questions, But that's what I think, as is our objective, we try and preempt whatever he's going to ask. And so they said, basically the quote, exact quote was, with a solid set of figures, clear progress has been made and hard work has been paid off. So I think Annalise is just going to mention something about the targets as well, in terms of this, the overall scorecard.
Yeah, so Hugh's just stolen my thunder
Oh.
about sharing the information from the regulator, but just real wholehearted thanks to the team and for all of you for supporting and scrutinising and pushing to make sure that we do have a change. What we've done is we've reviewed the targets, and I think everybody has been used to seeing a sea of red for things that are 100%. But then also coming back and being quite realistic and saying, well, if that's 1 or 2 properties, we're not really painting the true picture of the progress and the work that's been done. So we've amended some of those compliance targets from 100% to 99.5. So that's still what we want to make sure is that it's an ambitious but achievable target. If we have 100%, you know that we're not going to be able to achieve that consistently, because we do have circumstances where we have challenges and we work with residents. So we just wanted to let you know that we've made that change. And it also brings us in line with benchmarking with Guildford Council as well. So you'll be able to much more easily, as we progress through our collaboration and LGR journey, you'll be able to compare data more effectively. So I hope that you support those changes, and hopefully it doesn't mean that we're not aiming for 100%, but it just means that you're not getting that red flag every time, and a lot of explanation.
Just one point on that, Annalise, on page 1, then, which is a target of red. I know we want to have 4 decent building standards, but the target is 100%.
Yeah.
And
94.6.
should we not have? Yeah, if it's to be realistic, we're not going to make it unless we knock down, I don't know what, 50 houses and rebuild them. What do you want to do with that?
I take your point. So should we go away and come up with a target that's not?
Otherwise, it will always be red, won't it? Until it ticks. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Well, we'll look at what
tolerance is 3%. So it's only when it gets to 97.
When it gets to 97 will be amber. As we say, it's an ambitious target. So we'd need to look at what our capital work programme is this year to see whether we can address. I'm trying to think how many properties that is. It's about, my mental arithmetic's rubbish. It's about 200.
I think that's a good point, but we're only reporting this
annually.
No, it's every 6 months. So I think for the next time we report it, we'll come back with a review target, I think, and provide some logic to it. Because reviewing some of the data yesterday, there are some properties that are not going to make decent because of their kitchens are so small, and we can't build out the kitchen. So I think that's again justification for actually changing it from 100%, because we know, unless, as I say, unless we dispose of the homes, we're not going to reach the 100%. And I don't think that's our strategy. Dispose of homes.
It wouldn't be very kind unless we can relocate them to super duper places.
So we'll come back with a proposal on that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions from John?
Yeah, the one that jumps out at me, of course, is, as we keep talking about, is the average number of working days less than normal, void of the page 8 of the report, where again in red. And we've been talking about this for a long time. Are we going to get to the end of this, or again, is it unachievable, or have you got answers to why it's always in the red?
So, I mean, Matt's still doing some work on this. I think it's stabilised. We have come down greatly, 38 working days, and Matt's still doing work on this. But we have agreed, or it's been agreed, and we have the budget for a void manager who was just focused on this. And Matt's doing the recruitment for that. And I think that's, well, when that post is in place, that is when we will need to see a real dramatic decrease in these figures. So I'm not promising next month there's going to be a great improvement, or maybe not the month after, but in 4 or 5 months when we've got this person in post, we should definitely see an improvement. And I think that's where when we could be really challenged if there isn't that improvement after putting that investment in.
Okay, so by the end of the year, hopefully we should see part of the corner turn.
As long as we can get the person in post recruitment. So yeah.
It's just, it's upsetting to some tenants who can't get in. It's upsetting to council because we're losing money.
Definitely. Oh yeah, definitely. No, we're totally committed to it. But just to be clear, it's because we haven't got that post in, but we are still working on reducing it. And as I say, Matt's doing work on that still. That insurance. That sort of leads me to the exception report, which is in the annex. You'll be prepared to quickly run through that. So there's some number of compliance areas. So we just sort of cracking it down to the get it to where we want to be in terms of it's very low numbers, if not 100%. I think it's just good to remind ourselves of the progress we have made. So for the first one is electrical certificates. We've still got 106 homes without electrical installation certificates, up-to-date ones. That's reduced from 127 in April. In October, when the regulator came, we were at 314. The progress has been made. And as I say in the report, we are regularly meeting on a weekly basis, the three of us on a weekly basis, really pushing the team to get these numbers down to at least single figures and then eventually to our 100% requirement. Water access is a key issue, yeah. But this goes then back to the Ombudsman report about access and about understanding it's a complex issue and getting the housing management team to support that area. So yeah, that's it. So water, we are going to have again, they reduced greatly since October. We had 930 actions outstanding. We've now done 498. And as I've explained in previous meetings, they're on hold because we're doing the procurement, which is going through in July. We will get authorization to procure a new contractor to do extensive work to make safety systems. We've got a mitigation plan in place for the tenants that have had outstanding actions for a long time and may be vulnerable to communication. And we're also undertaking extra water safety testing as well. And smoke detectors is a similar to the electrical test in terms of numbers have come down since October from 491 to 138. But again, it's getting down to the single figures that we haven't explained before. So as I say, we're having weekly meetings with the team to really pushing them and coming up with different strategies to get these figures down. So I can move into repairs. So things I really want to highlight, and again, I think the hard work of us all, hard work of Matt, is the improvement in terms of satisfaction, which is monitored through the independent survey of the TLF report. And so tenant satisfaction has now gone up to around 88%. That's a huge improvement from previous months, and it continues to improve. I think this is sort of reflected in other areas of improvement. So, for example, reduced response to repairs not completed within 28 days was 33% in October 24. We're now down to 5.47. So, and then the reduced overdue response repairs were 303 in October 24 and now 30 in May 25. So,
Hang on a minute, are we missing this annex in our papers?
no, I printed it off this morning, it was there.
It's page 35.
Oh, where it says 35, right, sorry, I was on it, it just. It's my eyesight that's going, sorry, my apologies.
So is this because what does Ian Williams say? Is it he's just been able to recruit more socialist people to help and get there? Or is there another reason? Because he was always saying that he didn't have enough staff, wasn't he?
Yeah, so I think, and Matt can come in, I think they've improved their management. One of the things we put pressure on to change the management.
Yeah.
I think the manager, especially the general manager as well for the area, has really improved things. I think there's a lot of focus. I think we have to take some credit in terms of our better contract management, constantly chasing and meeting with them and highlighting issues that they don't, because I think we've discussed this, is who shouts loudest. And I think that's what we need to keep doing, and that Matt and his team have been doing that. I think they've had an improvement in their recruitment, have they, Matt, in terms of operatives and stuff? But I still think they still have to struggle.
And consistency.
Well, it's fantastic, it's great news.
Well.
Because I know we've been moaning on about it for months, so well done.
It's a joint effort, so they I think you get the impression they really want to do better now, you know.
I mean, and it's hard to measure. When I talk to them, I feel that they really do want to really understand what we want. This is the other area in terms of complaints. Sharon is now meeting with the senior management on a fortnightly basis just to review the complaints, because it's resolving complaints. We know there's going to be service breakdowns, but it's the resolution and making sure that we look to resolve it and resolve it positively. So again, Sharon said it was an exceptionally positive meeting she had with them in terms of resolving complaints. And again, that all contributes, because I find sometimes when people have had a complaint and you deal with that complaint well, they're satisfied with the service. Because I think many people are reasonable because they know things can break down. But if you can rectify it and you take notice, and so I think overall, I think the important thing, especially with Matt going, overall we've got to keep that pressure on. Yeah. Yes, because it's 88%, it's fantastic. I think it's especially where we were. Where were we in October in terms of satisfaction? Or no, you gave an April figure, wasn't it?
72. Oh no, no, I really got it for January. So 72.6 in January.
So 72 percentage points in January, and now we're up to 88. And it's an independent survey. It's as I say, it's monthly. And I think to see that change, it's really good.
I just really worry when who's taking your place? Because otherwise we're going to lose all that hard work.
Well, and that's what we've got to ensure that doesn't happen. So adverts have gone out and we're looking for an interim as well. It takes so long to recruit, but yeah, that is a risk going forward.
When are you leaving?
One of the big risks is succession planning in any operation.
Yes,
it's the one that's often not raised up until it's needed.
Yeah.
But,
sorry.
But yeah, I think as I say, I'm pleased because we've done a lot of hard work and the committee has done a lot of hard work on this area. But as I say, I'm saying it's what it was 83 percentage points, but I think it's only 1 month at 88. But it does show that it's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. And we've just got to make that as a consistent thing around that 90 mark. I think it would be fantastic. But again, I think to say thank you for everybody's contribution.
Just a small question on IWO5, but number of overdue responses. We don't have a target. Yeah. Number of overdue responses repairs. Should we have a target? It says not applicable.
So within the performance scorecard, we don't have performance targets for overdue responsive repairs or overdue remedial actions that's consistent throughout the report, but I'm sure that Matt has a working plan to reduce those down, and we've certainly reduced them from 303 in October to 30.
We still get their flight plan, we still get their weekly flight plan, so that's still available spec.
Yeah.
Anything overdue and anything over 28 days, we still get that.
All right, I'm just, when one looks at a specific report, and there are blank bits on there, it just makes you wonder why, that's all. Yeah, any more questions, right?
There's no target, what's it there for?
Well, I don't know if you can have a little think about that.
I mean, essentially, we'd like to be at zero.
Zero.
And I think that's where we all work towards, is not having any overdue actions. But we can certainly take that.
Well, there are all
away.
sorts of reasons why there are overdue things, and we don't actually report them with a huge applause when they finish 5 days early. Yeah, but
I mean, we could look at it in the same vein as the compliance. If we say we're doing 1,200 jobs a month,
you got it.
what's 99.5% of that? And then I don't know.
My real concern is if this is just presented on its own, what is the message that it's giving? It'd be nice to
Well,
have.
the message I think we've been looking at in more detail at a lot more responsive repairs KPIs, because the service hasn't been hitting that overall satisfaction. In that ideal world, and where we want to get to, is you'll get that tenant satisfaction with repairs that's around 90%, and everybody will be confident with the repair service, and we won't be needing to look into the why are people not satisfied. So I think we've had this as an indicator to identify the reason it was taking. The average time it was taking jobs to be completed has elongated, and the reason for the dissatisfaction is because we had this peak of overdue jobs, and as we're bringing that down, once it gets to maybe around 15, then that might be something you don't need to see anymore, because the other indicators are demonstrating that the service is. It's been more of an explanation KPI for you to keep an eye on it, with Matt saying about the flight plan to see that coming down. And what's a delight to see is that has come down and the satisfaction has gone up. So
No, I'm happy with that. And this Annex 1 report is for this board only, isn't it? It's not going beyond that.
but it's published.
It's published on the website.
Publicly.
All right, okay.
Published.
Well, I'll leave you with that.
Yeah.
Any more questions from?
And just to clarify, this is given to, because it's published to the studies, we also give this to regulator. So this is like our monthly report to the regulator as well.
Right. Okay, so are you happy to note and to receive the Landlord Services Performance Scorecard and the Landlord Services Performance Exceptions Report?
Yes.
Agreed.
Good. Number 10, Landlord Services Improvement Plan. Is it you again?
No.
Oh, sorry.
It's me now. Yes, just to report back that we had 3 actions due in May, and all of those actions were completed. We have 7 actions due in June, and we're not at the end of the month yet, but I hope to be reporting back to you next month that they will have been completed, and we are moving along with those, and so they all look positive. So I noted the action from earlier to add an improvement plan action around the emergency responsive repair, so I'll have that in. Great.
Okay, any questions? No, thanks, Sharon. I mean, I'm going to say it now. I would have said it earlier, and I could also say it at the end, but that would mean that we have delayed a bit. I think the reports in this in our agenda are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And wow, you know, just move it across to the rest of the borough, please. No, I think there's a real matter for praise, Sharon. So Landlord Services Improvement Plan, We received the Landlord Services Improvement Plan and we are happy.
Yeah.
with that. And then lastly, forward plan on page 47, which I've now lost. That's always that way, isn't it? It's up to you, Andy. No, do take your choice.
Sharon put it on the screen.
Oh.
So no meeting in August.
So yes, just to say that there are a number of items for next month. We don't have a meeting scheduled in August. The theme around next month will be complaints and budget at the event. As Hugh mentioned earlier, I'll also be bringing back improvement actions that we've identified from the tenant satisfaction measures that you've seen today. I've certainly been working with the tenants panel to come up with those actions as well. And then you'll have your standard papers, the scorecard and acceptance report and improvement plan. If there's anything anybody would like to see next month that's not on there, please do share or contact me after this meeting.
That's it.
Perfect in every way. I'm just conscious about AWAB's law and my inability to read the report. Are we going to have an update on mould?
So the next standard mould update is in September.
Yeah, so
It's on the board for September.
yeah, I
Yes,
got it.
according-
So that's an appropriate time.
Yes.
That's good. Okay. Thank you. And the date of the next meeting. Oh, hang on.
I think that might
Oh,
have
sorry.
changed since.
Yes, it
Yeah,
has.
but before I get on to number 12, are we happy to note and receive the Landlord Services Advisory Board Forward Plan 25 to 26?
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed, thank you very much. Date of the next meeting is not the 22nd of July, is that right?
No, I'm just checking. I think it was moved to
21st.
We moved it to the Monday.
21st. Yeah,
yes, it's on
The Monday,
21st
23rd.
of July.
of July.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 22nd clashed with EB, which means that both Councillor Rivers and Councillor Crowe couldn't attend.
We'd have
so-
to miss that meeting to come here.
That's what I
You would.
said. I said we'd much rather be here.
Yeah, so 21st of July.
At what time?
That's a Monday, actually.
10
21st
o'clock?
of July.
It's a Monday, yeah.
Yes.
10 o'clock, isn't it?
10 o'clock,
Yeah,
yes.
as normal, just
Yes.
different day.
Yeah, we just moved it back a day.
Okay.
Thank you all very much for
Here we
for
go.
coming today on this summery day where there's hardly any wind and it's really pleasantly hot outside.
Councillor.
See you all in July.
Not
Have a
able
good
to
one.
make it, please do.
No doubt, I'll see you before then at some point.
If you're not able to
I
make
look
it,
forward to
then
meeting with us.
please do get in touch with them, questions about.
You know, it took me, he was on it.
You